We're now in the third Perek of Shoftim. This Perek, where we finish up with the introduction from the last two Prakim, and now we're really going to get into the Galgal of the Shoftim, that cycle of the Shoftim. So it starts off that Hashem gave us a test. Hashem left some of the different nations in Eretz Yisrael, and they are there, Linasos Bam Es Yisrael. Linasos, remember, to test. And we said, who are we testing? Why? What's a test? So the test is not for Hashem. Hashem doesn't need a test. Hashem needs us to understand where we're up to. Hashem needs us to hold on to unfurl our banner and see how strong is our emunah. Because remember we said, if it only goes into the brain, not going to help. If it only goes into the heart, emotionality is certainly not going to be the kingpin. We need both. And here, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to see, let's see what they do. Rak l'ma'an da'as doros b'nei Yisrael l'lamdam milchama. So that the Bnei Yisrael are going to learn how to fight war, how to experience war. What does that mean? Rak asher lifnehem lo yadum, because beforehand they didn't know. Beforehand they had these miracles. There are some people who have never experienced working hard for the war, to actually physically get involved in a war, and to understand ultimately where war comes from. The war is not just the war of actual war, but it's the war with the Yetzer Hara. Thinking about it, there are people, right, that were just following. They're just following. It was so easy. You see Hashem, the Yad Hashem, it's nothing. But then comes tough times when you're not on the successful team, when you're not going to ultimately just win out because you have the star player on your team, or that your team is the dream team, or that you understand that it's not all from Hashem. Not everything goes well all the time. And so who gets sent? The Plishtim. Remember, we have mentioned before, the Plishtim are people who don't want us to have Eretz Yisrael. And so they are they're all about, and that's even still today, they don't like Bnei Yisrael, not to wipe us out, but just to get rid of us in Eretz Yisrael. So here is a very formidable opponent, in addition to the Knani, the Tzidoni, the Chivi, etc., etc. And by Hayu l'nasopam es Yisrael ladat. And what is this for? What to see? Whether they would follow in the ways of Hashem. And so what did the Bnei Yisrael do? Well, they settle among the Knani, the Chiti, Amori, Priti, Chibi, and Yebusi. And Vayechu es benosehem lahem lanashim. Immediately, they inculcate themselves, and now they are taking the women for wives, and benosehem nasu livnehem. And so now we're having intermarriage. Vayevidu es Elohehem. And that's exactly what happens. It starts off with relationships that are not appropriate, relationships that take away the fabric of what happens in a person's home. And so then what happens? Everything goes. If the relationship is not there, then nothing is there. And all of a sudden they're worshiping idols. Now we've said we can't fully understand, but they are asu hara b'nei Hashem. They forget Hashem, and they start to focus on avodah zarah, and Hashem gets angry. And so when Hashem gets angry, who does he send? He sends Kushan Rishatayim Melech Aram Naharayim. So he sends Kushan Rishatayim, who's like double bad, Russia twice. Melech Aram Naharayim. Where have we heard Aram Naharayim before? Oh yeah, that's right. Avram Avinu. Hashem is saying, you didn't go back to your roots. I'm going to make sure that we walk down memory lane together, and you see that where you started from, which was with Avraham, and now you're going to see the difficulty that you have when you choose door number 2, and that's not the door that is the one that you belong opening. and Aram Naharaim. So we know that's a shout out to Avram and to our ancestors. But in addition to which, the Gemara talks about the Kushan Rishatayim, from the word Kush, dark, is a play on Lavan, that these were the descendants of Lavan. Lavan, who said one thing, meant something else, who was not loyal to his own family. You're not loyal to me? Look at that. Remember Lavan, who wasn't loyal to his own daughters and who treated everybody really poorly, even when they were related to him? So that is where we go with this, and it is for 8 years. V'yezaku b'nei Yisrael Hashem, and immediately they cry. And we like that. Now, before they were boche, they were crying on a different level. V'yezaku is like at a pain, where they're like, what's happening? Vayakam Hashem Moshe lebnei Yisrael. And so what does Hashem do? Hashem says, wow, you cried out. Good news. That's the first part of tshuva. You have to admit that you did something wrong. You have to cry out to Hashem. I'm okay. This is good. This is really good stuff. And so what does Hashem do? He's forgiving them, and he's sending Othniel ben Kenaz. Othniel ben Kenaz, we know that guy. Wonderful. This is getting better. He is the brother of Kalev, and we had him in one of our stories already. So we know that he is a big Talmid Chacham. He was married to Kalev's daughter Achsa, and he's the prime person to do what Shoftim do. What do Shoftim do? They are the spiritual leader as well as the physical army head. And so they really have this double role that is very significant. And that significant role is going to have to help in some way to get the Bnei Israel out of what is happening. And so Vatihi alav Ruach Hashem, and he has a Ruach of Hashem. What is that? What does it mean to have a Ruach of Hashem? So Rashi discusses that he saw he was having a conversation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he said to Hashem, remember the Bnei Israel, remember how they messed up with the Egel, and how you said and that you knew, I see that they're sinning, but just like I saw here and I forgave them, so in the future I'm going to see that they're in pain and that they messed up, and you should forgive them again. And he has this conversation where Hashem says, okay, I got that. You know what? That's a good point, so to speak. And so he is really saving the Bnei Israel in multiple ways. First, he's coming to bat for them. Second, he's going to lead them to doing good things. And third of all, he's actually going to physically be the Moshiach Es Yisrael. And so what happens is Hashem gives Kushan Rishatayim in the hands, Melech Aram, in the hands of Othniel ben Kenaz. And so amazing, look at that. We're exactly where we need to be. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved us. They learned their lesson. Vatishkot ha'aretz arba'im shana. So for 40 years, so first it was the 8 years, now it's 40 years. For 40 years, wonderful, everything is silent. Now, it's silent. Should they be building themselves up religiously? Yes. Should they be doing something? But ultimately, at least it's quiet. No one's getting into trouble. And so the Galgal, this cycle, is coming to an end with Vayamat Othniel ben Kenaz, and now he dies. Now what happened? We know no leadership means a big problem for the Bnei Yisrael. And so again, without the corrective leadership position, by Yosifu Bnei Yisrael Lasod Hara Bnei Hashem, again they do bad. And so now Hashem has got to get creative, and who does he send? Eglon Melech Moav al Yisrael. Eglon Melech Moav. Moav, and then also Bnei Ammon, and interesting. Why is that? So remember, again, we're going down memory lane. We're going to all of our relatives. Who did Moab and Ammon come from? Lot. Now, here's an interesting element. Lot had good parts and bad parts inside of him, right? So we have Moab, Balak, was the king of Moab, and he had some good parts and some bad parts because he believed in Hashem. He understood the power of Hashem. And we know Lot too. He was pretty good some of the time, and then was still, not so much of the time. And so here we have Hashem is saying, oh, you're confused. You have good parts inside of you and bad parts inside of you. Oh, I understand that. I see that. You still need to do tshuva and you still have to be better. And not only that, what part do the enemies take? They take the Ir Hatzmarim. They take the first conquered place, the poor Canis, the descendants of Yisro. I mean, we're really going down memory lane here. Their land. And it's a real blow. It's an ego blow because that was the first land that they got. And Hashem is saying, I am going to show you how this feels. You are my people and you're not being loyal to me. So that land that you thought was yours, good news, I'm taking it away from you. And I'm taking it away, and they have to serve Eglon, the king of Moab, for 18 years. 18 years, chai, a real life. Yeah, you like this life, says Hashem? Really great. Vayezaku b'nei Yisrael Hashem, and the b'nei Yisrael, they don't know what to do with this. So when it came to Kushan Rishatayim Melech Aram Naharaim, some say that he was just taxing them and they didn't know how to handle, like, what? We pay taxes to people? I don't understand. But ultimately, the b'nei Yisrael are subjected to Moab for a very long time, and then they cry out to Hashem. Vayakam Hashem la Moshe. Again, we know the cycle. Who's Hashem going to send this time? Ehud ben Gera. Now, Ehud ben Gera is ben Hayimini. He's from the Shevet of Binyamin. Why is that significant? Well, who is it? Whenever it comes to Moab, it's always an Ammon. Whenever it comes to Moab and Esav and or Amalek, who is it that has to be part of the saving? Someone from Rachel. Why? Again, Rachel Iminu. So here, Ehud ben Gera is from Shevet Binyamin. So yes, we have from Rachel, we're good. And so what happens is he has some very interesting characteristics that make him unique, and characteristics that show the Hashkachas Hashem, that Hashem really runs the world. It is so cool if you tap into that frequency, says Hashem. So first of all, he's Iter Yad Yamino. He's either has a deformed hand on the right, or he's just a lefty. And what's important about that, and the biggest Musar Haskell that you could get, the real Musar, is that because of his weakness, it provides him with a level of strength, because no one would imagine that he would be keeping a sword on the right side. If you're a righty, obviously you put the sword on the left side, and most people didn't have this particular issue, and so it was never looked at, right? It was never understood that, oh, why don't we check the his right leg when they were doing the body check. Now, that was really important. He makes for himself this small little sword that he has with a blade on both sides, and he is able to manipulate the situation. He's able to get very close to Eglon, and Eglon is a very fat king, an obese king. Why is that significant? Because he's partaking in all of this world's pleasures. Hashem is kind of putting in this ironic twist. Oh, you people have taken the physicality, and all you're looking at is the avodah zara and all of the pleasures. And so what do? I put you subjects to the fattest of the fat, the one who really must take all of the physicality and really enjoy it. And so what does he do? He gives a korban to this king, and he wants to bring it. And he says to the people, "Davar seser li elacha hamelach." So he's able to get close enough that he's able to tell the king, "I have a secret message for you." Now, a guy who comes from this type of mentality where there is Hashem, and he has some level of respect for Hashem. So what happens is he stands up, and first he says, everyone get away, be quiet, and he comes closer to him, and Vayakam me'al hakise, and he gets up from his chair. Now, we have spoken about in the past, and this is something to highlight, that Hashem doesn't forget anything. He highlights and magnifies everything that everyone does because he finds that hidden meaning. He's so looking for good in people, which is a mitzvah that we should emulate. And so when he sees, Vayakam el hakise, so who comes from, ultimately from Eglon, it is David HaMelech, who comes from Moab, Rus, and ultimately David HaMelech. And it is an amazing thing. Why? Because Eglon had inside of him two parts. He had the part of Rus, the part of the Ruchnius, the part of the spirituality, the part that believed in Hashem. And then he had this huge amount of Gashmias, which was Orpah, who ultimately did not return with Naomi, and who, had that other part to her. So ultimately, he's able to be successful. He kills this fat king. The blade, doesn't create any sort of blood on him. Another miracle. The fact that Ehud got so well, stuck the knife just in the right spot, also a miracle. And all of the chalev, all of the fat comes out. Again, highlighting, look at this, Bnei Israel. You know what? You should really be focused on where you put your fat. And ultimately, he's able to run away. And he is successful, and the people don't understand why it smells. They feel like, he locks the door, and then they don't check it because he must be, in the bathroom relieving himself. And interestingly enough, he isn't. He is really dead. And when they come and they try to find him, Ehud has already escaped, and he is able to escape a big miracle. And so they blow the shofar on Ephraim. All the people come and see that, wow, we're going to be successful against Moab. And that's exactly what happens. They're successful against Moab. Again, all of it is hashkachas Hashem. It's all the hands of Hashem. It's all something that is so significant. But it's just the same thing again and again and again. They're able to be successful because they have Hashem on their side. They're able to be successful because they see Hashem, and Hashem rewards them in kind. And the land is quiet for 80 years. Okay, Batishkot ar shmonim shana. And the last pasuk, the third of the Shoftim that we hear about, is Shamgar ben Anas. Some people say we have no idea what Shevet. It's interesting is that there is going to be at least, except for Shevet Shimon, there's going to be at least one Shofit from every Shevet. Some say Shamgar ben Anas was from Levi. He was only for a few months, and he hit and kills 600 Plishtim with this Malmed Habakar, with this utensil that they use for plowing, and he saves the Bnei Israel. So we don't get a sense of exactly what they did wrong, but it's just more of the same. And again, Hashem is able to make a huge miracle. Why is Shamgar ben Anas successful? He's from Levi. He's not actually going to be a really big warrior. That's number one. Number two is, look what utensil he's using. He's using a utensil that they use for plowing, clearly highlighting if Hashem wants to make a miracle, he can make plowshares into weapons, into plowshares, as we know, and we'll learn about later. And just this idea that if Hashem wants something to happen, it happens. He's doing it in a miraculous way, but he's only doing it in this cycle. When the Bnei Israel apologize and they see Hashem, then Hashem shows himself. Otherwise, they go down and Hashem has to punish them. And Hashem has to punish them linasos, to test them, which is why, if you think about it, why is it that we have so many mitzvos, right? Like Hashem should just give us a few mitzvos and we'll be done. But he gives us so many mitzvos, so many opportunities to do well, to do what's right. But everything that we do is in a relationship, and it's in direct proportion to how we relate to Hashem. So here you see that we have the ups and we have the downs. Hashem loves the Bnei Israel. He loves us. He wants to give us all the good. But we have to tap into that frequency. And when we do, Vayosha Gamhu al Yisrael, then everyone, he's successful for the Bnei Israel. The Bnei Israel live life. But I think the highlighted point is Vatishko Haaretz. The land keeps on being tranquil. Now, on the one hand, that's great. Shtika is wonderful. There's nothing going on, but they should be building up their emunah, bitachon. They should be growing. It should be that the land is developing, that they are developing themselves. Remember, we have, and this is a lesson that we'll close with, which is the way that the world works is with gravity. Whatever goes up comes down unless you push it back up. So here, the situation is they have huge amount of yitzhar. They have huge amount of temptations. There is so much going on to push them down. Unless you're actively working, you can't just vatishko art. You can't just be quiet. You have to be involved. You have to be engaged. You have to be doing it on a consistent way. That is the antidote, but they haven't gotten there yet. So that is the end of the Perek. We learned about 3 of the Shoftim. We will continue on tomorrow.